lucky, but one way, I don't usually make my own films. This is the first time I've ever done this. I've spent years and years and years working for people that I look up to, and in smaller roles, helping them make their films, which is a way of continued education for myself, but also like a way to buy groceries and stuff like that. So you don't always have to be the front person too. You can learn and work for other people that are in that world, and that kind of educates you on how to be in that world. So that there's a lot of ways, whether it's just hitting in what she said is important, right? And it doesn't even have to be a job. Sometimes that makes you love it less. You just create and see where it goes.
And also, especially with something like drawing and art, the drawing where you just sit and draw what's in your mind or whatever you want to do and what that you enjoy might not be the thing that is what's paying your bills, but you can be a graphic designer and you're still kind of flexing those muscles. You're doing something related to it, and you make enough money that you have the freedom to live and survive and draw on your own time. Like I've done commercials and things like that, and this film I love it more than anything. It's my life, and we're traveling around the country with it, and that's what I care about. The same skills that I used to make this film, I've also made commercials about soap, but I don't care, I don't care about that stuff, but it's still, the same, the things that I've learned making those commercials or making TV shows is what made me able to make this.
Well, I'm offended because I love soap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, soap's all right. But I guess I will probably use soap for the rest of my life, so I'll take that back. But yeah, I mean, definitely, finding something that uses the same muscles so that the thing that you're passionate about doesn't get lost, but gives you the freedom to do what you want to do.
Why didn't you have a Juliet in your story?
I did have a Juliet.
Oh, you did?
Well, there's a couple ways to answer that. So Denise, I saw, she was in the Juliet role. And she was a very strong female presence. So I was very happy to have her there. So in a way, she's Juliet. However, she's not romantically involved with Dante. So I guess technically, I always kind of look at the city of Richmond being the Juliet, because Dante is in a very intense love story with his city, and it's complicated. And sometimes he feels banished, and other times he feels like he needs to fight to get home. So, so secretly, I kind of see the city, which is very present in those aerials and just always in the background, as being Dante's Juliet.
I would also say one of my secret who's Juliet is poetry. Because he's in this place of violence, and he has this secret love affair with this forbidden poetry. And that's how he gets through it, and that it's not the typical thing that you'd find in Richmond, but it's becoming that. But it kind of is this star-crossed love that he has.
Okay. How did you do the aerial views? Did you use helicopters or drones or stuff?
Drones are awesome.
Cool.
So we basically, Jason and our editor cut probably, we were at 98% of the way there, and Jason kind of always had in mind, we need to tell this character of the city itself, and all of those aerials we did in one day. Because we knew kind of what the film was and what we needed, and because our budget was limited, we knew that we couldn't, hire a helicopter or do this for many days, and so we just went up to Richmond and knew we need this, we need this, we need this.
That's one thing I can do better next time around. When directing a drone operator, I would drive him to the place where I wanted the shot. He's like, so you want a shot of right here? I'm like, yeah, let's put it up, let's fly. He's like, all right, well, we need to drive a mile that way. Maybe we'll fly towards right here. Oh, yeah, 'cause, okay, we're in the sky.
So you hired a drone operator?
Yeah.
So there's another job.
Yeah. And actually, our cinematographer, Rajiv, who we went to school with and shot most of it, now, so he operated the gimbal, which moves the camera, and the drone operator flew the helicopter. Jeeves now owns his own drone, a simpler one. That's what he's doing now. He moved down to Columbia, but so now we don't even need to hire the guy. We can just bring Jeeves. We have our friend. Yes, if we do it again, that's something we could change. Also, we could do it even cheaper.
A question for Robert, because Jason already answered it. Is this your first film, and how hard is it to have your film picked up?
I have edited a lot of films. This is my first film as a director. So I knew what it took to get it across the finish line, I thought, because editing is very hard. But it's a lot more, I think, when you make it a smaller team and do a lot more jobs at the same time. Short answer, yes, this is my first film. And then in order to get it picked up.
Yeah. I mean, that's still something that we're figuring out. And even though there are certain avenues of getting it picked up that we aren't going down or aren't available to us, we're still learning a lot of that. What we're learning is that, different projects have different paths, and especially now, like I was talking about with, digital distribution and things like that, there are just a lot more ways to distribute a film. And kind of just figuring out what's best for that project, and also kind of what your goal is. Like for us, with this film at least, is we're not trying to retire after this and make tons of money. We're trying to connect it with as many people as possible and the people that need to see it and will appreciate it and connect to it. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on. Developing a curriculum around it and focusing on education and those kind of things. And it's also my first feature.
How many hours of footage did you have before you started cutting it off?
So my rule as a professional documentary editor is I never count, because if I know, then I won't want to do it. But the real answer is, what was it, like 24 terabytes of footage?
Something like that.
I mean,
But also, before we started cutting it, I mean, Jason started shooting this even before I was on board to do the Kickstarter, and so he started editing and assembling stuff from day one. Especially in documentary where you don't have a script and you don't know where it's going to go, you kind of have to just start putting things together and you figure it out. So it wasn't like we shot everything and was like, all right, now we can try and figure out what it is. It's this thing that evolves as you go. And
yeah.
So,
It's kind of funny, you'll probably meet a lot of filmmakers this week, and a lot of documentary filmmakers like to brag about how much footage they have. It becomes like this internal contest. Well, I had 200 hours. But it's funny because of the nature of it. Like, you don't know when you start exactly what it's going to be, so you just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. We had a ton of footage, but I think that we always knew that this was going to be a film that was structured around a play that took course over a finite amount of time. So that allowed us to kind of be focused, but at the same time we actually moved to Richmond to do it. So then we're like, well, we live here, we might as well go and shoot today. So I only know in terms of terabytes. It was about 24 terabytes. I have no idea how many hours.
and it was one thing that was really helpful was having a director who is an editor, because he would be, we don't have as much footage as other people, but we have the footage that we need. Because Jason would know, like, this isn't going to be in the film, like, we don't have to film it, it's the way, we're just wasting space.
I would pretend like I knew that.
Well, it's true, because whatever we didn't film didn't make it into the movie.
You said you didn't have a script script, but like how organized was your plan for how it was going to turn out? Like what kind of room system did you use?
Yeah, well, so we knew that the play was this fun. And so Michael came up with this amazing plan of how we were going to film the play with like 8 cameras, and we knew that we wanted to capture artists in the creation phase. So like every day at rehearsal, even if it was really dry, we were going to sit there, we were going to film the whole thing, just in case something happened. And it was great because, I mean, a lot of those days we didn't use anything. But the early days when they were actually writing, we found to be very interesting because it's not often that you get to see a writer in the midst of their process. Usually you get to see the final thing. So I think we used every last scrap of the days that we shot them writing the play. And then you have to just, you know, as a documentary, leave space for real life to get in there. I mean, there was no way we could have known it was going to be an especially violent year. And that is really tough. And I don't think we knew, even as we were documenting it, how closely it parallels the arc of the play. I mean, that was something that once we had some space and could really step back and think about it, there was these new opportunities kind of bubbling up to the surface. And I don't want to undermine the tragedy. It's heartbreaking that all those lives were lost. But I think that, you know, being able to put them in a film like this with a positive message, even after, you know, they've been taken, hopefully that there's a greater purpose there. So it was, I forget the question. it was
a nice answer.
Yeah.
Well, my question kind of builds on that, and two different angles to the same question, but how much say did Dante and the other members of the community have in the making of the film? And I know subjects of films usually don't, but, and so the other side of that question is, how was it for you and them, for you being outsiders to the community, to the issues coming in, and making them the focus, like Streetwise did years ago in Seattle around homeless youth, you know? Suddenly they're stars of a major movie, but they're living a real different life than the filmmakers.
Well, this started very simply, and this is probably where I should have started describing my process. Molly from the movie is my cousin. We grew up together, we're super close. I've known about Dante and Raw Talent since they started 6 years ago. And I've made like videos for their smaller productions. And then it was at my grandma's 80th birthday that she came like sprinting. We haven't seen each other in a few months. She just comes running up to me. You're not going to believe what Dante's doing. And then she kind of tells me this whole story of Romeo and Juliet and describing the socioeconomic stuff going on in Richmond and how like the whole purpose is for him to get his students to draw parallels. And I said, that sounds like a movie. And she says, I know. And so I went up there to document the play and see if there was something bigger. And the very first day of filming was the day that the refinery caught fire. And so, you know, you're up there kind of researching something more than anything. And then the world intervenes in a really dramatic, terrible way. And then all the students just start talking about, you know, really, like suddenly they're not in class anymore because they need to be evacuated inside the building and just wait for their parents to come and get them. And they start talking about all the stuff that they face on a daily basis. And, you know, when their older brothers were young, the refinery blew up, and then they all got checks on their 18th birthday to avoid a massive lawsuit with, I mean, just things that I couldn't imagine growing up where I grew up outside of Detroit. And it's like this world is very quickly revealed to you, and you realize that there's a bigger story than you know, documenting the kids doing the play. And so, you know, I had a pretty open conversation with Dante at that point of what I saw this being. And I said, like, I think you're going to be the star of it, and I want you to take me into your neighborhood, and I want everyone to speak. Like, I'm going to talk to the police, I'm going to talk to the community members and politicians. And So Dante knew what the vision was, for sure. What was interesting, though, is that he didn't want to see it until it premiered. And we gave him the opportunity to, and he said, no, I want to be sitting in a theater with popcorn with my friends. And so that's how it went. I'm not sure I would do it that way again. I mean, Dante does love the film, but he also kind of, you know, ribs me around that, like, but my goal was to make it feel as though it was made by someone from Richmond. So by design, I try to not be present in the film. I think I break that rule once or twice, but yeah, I mean, it was meant to be. It was meant to feel like it was made by the people of Richmond, by including as many people as possible from Richmond.
What do they all think about it?
I think they like it. Yeah.
It's been pretty positively received. Yeah, for sure. And I think also another thing that just really helped was because Molly is so respected by everyone, she vouched for us. We were, like, people trusted us and allowed us in, and just kind of, and, you know, like Jason said, we moved up there, and so we were just there every day, and so we very quickly became part of the family, and, you know, they weren't, everyone kind of got less self-conscious because they didn't even recognize that the cameras were shooting anymore.
Right. One thing I heard about, which totally made my day, is Devone, the guy with the hat who works for the Office of Neighborhood Safety, apparently ran into Officer Pomeroy, the police officer, like at City Hall, and they didn't know each other before then, but they like recognized each other from the movie. Like, did you see the movie? Yeah, the cinematography was dope. So, you know, people kind of connecting that way. And I know that you know, the ONS guys really support it. The police department really supports it, which I wasn't sure they were going to. So I think it's going to be a tool for the city for sure.
I feel like I know more about what a director does, but Robert, could you tell us more what a producer does, please?
Michael.
Michael?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well, so kind of what I talked about before, that it's a very nebulous thing, kind of depends upon the project, and it's kind of just whatever the project needs.
Do you make lighting or crafts?
It's kind of anything that needs to be done.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that kind of lighting and effects and stuff like that wouldn't be a traditional producer's thing, but when you're a small crew, kind of everyone has to do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, for any given shoot day, there needs to be people in a place with X amount of equipment in order to do the job that they're expected to do. And as the director, I don't stress about any of that. I just turn to Michael and be like, we have what we need for today? Sure. And so, like,
Well,
he
everyone
does
wants
all
a
that.
producer, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants that. Did you ever feel afraid going in and doing some of the filming in the neighborhoods?
We try to go about it in a really responsible way. We never went into North Richmond without Dante because, as we mentioned in the film, he comes from an important family in that neighborhood. And so we would go out and we'd all get out of the car and we'd say, like, you know, this is Jason and Big Mike. They're here to do this. This is what, you know, this is the intention for the project. And it was funny because people, I mean, we draw a crowd, everyone would want to share their story, but there's not many people coming through there asking for people to share their stories about growing up there, just kind of giving a platform. So in that way, I think we went about it pretty responsibly. There was once or twice where, again, it's just kind of like real life comes in ways that you can never imagine. And it's not on the screen, but the only time I felt threatened was when we rode the bus with Denise. Somebody got on the bus and saw like the camera